In this Blender animation tutorial for beginners, I will show you how I made a floating games tile animation in Blender. I start by modeling a simple grass tile using the default cube. I scale the cube along the Z-axis and tab into edit mode. I add a horizontal loop cut to the cube. This will become the grass. I then select the top side grass faces and use Alt-E to scale the faces along their normals. I select the top corner edges, right-click, and dissolve them. I select the top face and separate it from the rest of the object with the P key and subdivide it. I tab into object mode. I apply the scale and add a displace modifier. I add a texture, and under the texture tab, I add a noise texture. This allows me to add more vertices so I can deform the mesh. Back on the modifier, I change the strength. I apply the modifier and add a solidify modifier and increase the thickness. I apply the modifier and make any necessary adjustments in edit mode. I select the remaining faces of the grass and separate them from the rest of the object. In object mode, I join the two grass pieces together with Ctrl-J. I select the dirt object and apply the scale. In edit mode, I subdivide the dirt object. I tab into object mode and add a displace modifier. I add a texture, and under the texture tab, I add a clouds texture. Back on the modifier, I change the strength. I apply the modifier and scale the dirt so it is a bit smaller than the grass. In edit mode, I select random faces of the dirt and separate them from the rest of the object. These will be my stones. In object mode, I add a solidify modifier with an offset of 1 and change the thickness. I apply the modifier. I add a cube and scale it down to the size of a fence post. And apply the scale. In edit mode, I duplicate it and move it to the other side of the tile. I add loop cuts and scale and rotate them to add some more interest to the posts. I duplicate one of the posts and rotate it around the y-axis 90 degrees. I then scale it and align it to the posts. I duplicate the fence rail and rotate it around the z-axis 180 degrees. I angle both rails to add some interest. I then add materials to the objects and join them using Ctrl-J. In the animation workspace, I set up the camera, just to make it easier to view the animation. Under the Output Properties tab, I changed the frames per second to 30 and the end frame to 60. I open the Action Editor and split the viewport and open the dope sheet. I start with the up and down animation. On frames 1 and 60, I add a keyframe for location. On frame 30, I move the tile up along the z-axis and add a keyframe for location. I then rename the action. I click on the fake user, which looks like a shield, and make a new action, which I rename. I then delete the keyframes on frame 30 and replace them with a new horizontal movement of the tile. I then export the animations as a GLTF file. FBX can also be used. I import the animation into Godot and open it in a new scene. When I open the animation player, I see that I now have both animations within the scene. If you have a request for a tutorial, a question, or a comment, feel free to leave a comment below the video. If you're interested in learning more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.